listening to Justin Bieber's Never Let You Go on repeat, just listening to it, crying, and I was just like, because this guy just broke up with me. Hi there, and welcome back to another video. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Myra, and if you're a returning viewer, hi, welcome back. So today, I have for you a little story time. Ooh. So today's story time, this is actually my very first story time ever. So I decided I want to start you off by telling you about my very first relationship slash boyfriend. And it's actually kind of a little stupid one, honestly. It's not that exciting, but it's a little weird, so I kind of wanted to share it with you. I'm here in front of like my sliding door to my little porch, so hopefully this lighting looks good. My outfit's a little weird, but it's hot today, so let's just move on. Okay, so this story takes place back when I was 12 during the summer between the summer of 7th and 8th grade, and I was 12 years old. I didn't turn 13 until October that year. Just a little, what would you call it? Not trigger warning. Just a little note. I tend to be one of those people that when I start a story, I just take it in multiple different directions instead of just sticking to one track. So sorry, but I'll try my best. During the summer, I was friends with all of my neighbors, as was my brother, because we were all around the same age. So we were all a big group of friends that would hang out outside in our stairs. We were out from like really early to like really late at night, and we were always very friendly with everybody. Anytime we had new neighbors, we would, be friendly with them, have them join our group. So this summer in particular, we had a few new neighbors that were around our age. So one of them was a family, and there was a guy, we'll call him number 7, because that's the apartment they lived at. He was like my age, but he was a year younger in school. So that's number 7. And then we also had number 10. She's a girl. She moved in there with her mom and her younger siblings. And we're just going to call her number 10 because that's the apartment she lived in. So this summer, I would hang out with my friends, specifically we'll call her number 2. So we're going to call these characters or these people numbers based off of the apartment they lived at. So we'll call her number 2. She was my best friend since 7th grade. She lived right next door to me. We would hang out all the time. I would always help her with her homework. We would walk home together. We'd walk to school together. But we didn't have a lot of like classes together. But I considered her my best friend. She ended up not being a nice friend to me later on, but that'll be a different story for a different day. And she was usually the one that was the friendliest. So she was usually the one that would kind of approach new people and kind of join them into our group. Her and I usually would hang out together, and then my brother too, he had a few friends there. There was another girl, we'll call her number 5, because she lived in apartment number 5. So she was also kind of a part of this group. And then, so the guy moved in, and then him and his family kind of sold like snacks out of their apartment. So they sold like chips, candy, things like that. My friends would sometimes go buy snacks from them and we'd hang out kind of thing, and then we'd go back to hanging out. I never bought her anything, but they did. So this one time, number 5, she decided she wanted to get a snack. I was always the kind of person that was like, I'll go with you because I don't want people to go alone. So I'd always offer to, accompany people. So I went with her. She was there buying her snacks. And this time the guy had answered number 7. He answered the door, so he's the one que la atendió, And then she started kind of talking to him. He was talking to her, but it was upstairs, his apartment. So I stayed kind of like on the stairs. I didn't really go up. And then, so I wasn't kind of there visible, but I was just waiting for her, kind of like, can we go, like, let's go back to our other friends? No, but she was kind of there talking, asking questions, but I wasn't really like, visible there. So he kind of had to like, look like through the wall to see who was there, and it was me, and I was just kind of like, awkwardly waiting. But my friend was just kind of like talking to him and everything, asking him questions about himself. I don't really remember much of the conversation because I really wasn't paying attention. I was trying to like dip. But I remember for some odd reason, she asked him,
Are you a virgin?
He was like 12, 13 as well at this time, but whatever, right? I'm not gonna judge. And honestly, I remember at this time I was like,
are you serious right now? Like, you really asking this?
I didn't say that, but I thought it. And I mean, one, I didn't know what that word meant, but I also kind of knew it had like a sexual connotation. And I don't remember his answer. I don't remember anything else after that. I was kind of like,
I wanna go.
and so that's kind of was like a weird conversation that I kind of listened at, but whatever. That girl was a flirt for sure. So maybe she was just interested. I don't know. Quien sabe. So then I remember my parents were in the process of looking for a new car to buy because ours was kind of giving us trouble. So we weren't really home much. My parents were always the kind of parents that would never leave us at home by ourselves. Even like when we were a little older. I mean, at this point I was 12. My brother was like 14. So we would go with them every time they were gonna go see a car. So it was pretty much almost every single like afternoon. And the entire time my brother and I were just like, we just want to go home. Like we want to hang out with our friends, do anything but this. So we weren't really home that often for a while. And that's kind of when our friends became friends with number 7. And then they also became friends with number 10, the girl. And so I kind of missed that kind of how that all came, but I'm sure it came about by like number 2 going and asking them, being like, hey, you know, blah, 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 and then just joining them to the group. So I remember by the time I had come home one day, they were already kind of friends with them. So we were already kind of friends because they were hanging out. So when we had to go to hang out with my friend, they were like, oh, you know, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so, you know how the thing goes. And so I remember like I got along pretty well with number 10. She was really nice. She looked a little older. I mean, at this point, I was 12. And for the most part, I've always looked a little younger. So at this point, I was a skinny little stick. And I looked like I was a little niña chiquita because I had no boobs, no nothing. I still don't really, honestly. But this other girl, number 10, she was very like developed, right? She was very womanly, you know, good for her. I've always would have loved to have that kind of body, but I never have, and I don't think I ever will. We were friends, and then I remember like my friends, they were always trying to talk about boys and everything, you know, bad experiences, this and that. I was always very inexperienced with boys. Like, nunca me pelaban, honestly. Anytime I liked a guy, he never liked me back because I usually always liked the bad boys. And I was always such a goody two-shoes, like, always. Like, would follow the rules. I was always, like, in school, like, I was a really great student. Like, I got straight A's. And I was always siempre, like, bien portada. Like, my parents always expected, like, this for me. And it wasn't hard for me to do because that's just, I guess, my nature. So I was always very, like, innocent. So I never really had anything to add to the conversation. Oh no, at this point, I'm not gonna get into it because I don't want to slut shame, you know, good for them, cool. And so one day, I remember like my friend, number 2, she was texting me while I was with my parents, you know, looking at a car, and she's like, hey, like, number 7 told me he likes you. He, you know, wants to ask you out. What do you think? And I was like, we've never spoken to each other. How can you like me? And I don't know if this happens with other people, but for me, it's like when somebody tells you that they like you or you find out someone likes you, you kind of sometimes start to like them back. Or you kind of like start to try to see them differently and see if you like them back. So I was like, I mean, he's not like bad. He's not bad looking. He's cute or whatever. But I've never spoken to him. But like I said, at this point, I was super, super shy, super, super innocent. So I was like, okay, whatever. And then I don't think I ever told my friend that I liked him back. But I don't know what meddling she did. But eventually, one another day, when I was with my parents looking at a car, she texted me like, hey, he is asking about you, blah, blah, blah. He wants to ask you out, like, if you want to be his girlfriend. And I was like,
I'll talk to him when I get back.
I genuinely was concerned, like, is this a joke? Is it a prank? Like, I don't understand because we've never spoken to each other. And so then I got home, and then I think I was helping my parents like unload groceries or something. And then my friend number two, she comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, so what did you think?" And I was like,
I don't know, like, I want to talk to him.
and so she told him that I wanted to talk to him. And so I asked him, like,
Hey, like, is this a joke? Like, is this a prank? Like, I don't get it.
and he was like, "No." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "All right then." And he was like, "Okay, cool." And then we didn't talk after that. It was nothing, no hug, no nothing. And then I was like, "All right." And then I walked back with my friend, whatever, and I told her, like,
Okay, so I guess we're boyfriend and girlfriend.
and I'm sorry, I'm laughing and smiling because I'm just remembering, and it's all just like so like little kid, like, I don't know. You know, the week went by, and again, same thing. We just weren't home because we were looking at cars with my parents. I remember the whole time we were out, I'd be like, you know, looking at the time, like, I want to go home. I want to go home, because I was hoping that I would get home, we'd hang out, and I'd get to know him, since we were like, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend. And so I was always hoping, but by the time we got home, it was too late to hang out outside. My parents wouldn't let us. And I remember I told my brother, like, "Oh, this is what's going on." And I remember he was like, "Yeah, like, I get it. You know, why you want to go home early? Like, it's got to be hard to not see someone you like." And it was kind of nice, you know, that my brother understood, but I didn't tell my parents. I was not going to. Which my parents never had an issue with me having a boyfriend. They were always very much like open about that. Like, if I ever want to go out with somebody, I just had to be honest with them. And I mean, eventually I was going to tell them, but it was kind of weird because it was like, I don't even know him. So it wasn't even really a relationship, I would say. And so I remember maybe like 6-7 days later, I was home. It was like early enough in the day where my mom wasn't gonna let us out because we had to clean and everything. So I remember I got a text from number two that her and number 10 were hanging out, whatever. And I guess number 7 told them that he wanted to break up. So they told me he wanted to break up. They didn't tell me the reason. And then they came to my door and told me, like,
oh, he found someone else he likes, and, you know, he doesn't want to be with me anymore.
And I remember I was like, okay. And they gave me a hug and asked me if I wanted to go get ice cream or anything. And I said, no, that's fine, like, whatever. I very much played it off like I didn't care. But the thing was, is that I low-key was a little hurt, like insulted, but it was so funny. So after they left, I remember I had a CD player. And I remember I got my CD player. I was listening to Justin Bieber's Never Let You Go on repeat, just listening to it, crying. And I was just, because this guy just broke up with me, right? And then I remember I maybe heard it a few times, and then I was over crying. I was done, whatever, got it out of my system, cool. And then I started processing, right? Like, okay, he broke up with me because he likes somebody else. Who is that somebody else? And honestly, when they told me that he liked somebody else, I already had my suspicion, okay? I had my suspicions. And I just needed it to be confirmed. So my suspicion was that he liked number 10. Why? Because, I mean, if you were looking at me compared to her, like, I looked like an 8-year-old. She looked definitely way more like a woman. And what 13-year-old boy isn't gonna prefer that over, you know? So I don't hold it against either of them, right? And then, but you know what, in my head I was like, you know what? Whatever, he might like her, but she's my friend. Like, there's no way she's gonna betray me like that, right? Well, I noticed, like, when I would hang out with my friends, like, they would kind of pass looks at each other and stuff. Number 10 and number 7, whatever. They were very flirty in front of us. And I remember being like, wow, like, this is bullshit. Like, I was a little hurt, like, my feelings, but I think maybe I was a little bit, like, my ego was more hurt than, like, my feelings, because I really don't think I had feelings for him. I didn't know him, right? So I think it was more my ego and more the betrayal of, like, okay, my friend just backstabs me, right? Like, you would think girl code, like, there's no way you would betray a friend like that, right? Whatever. But also, another thing that hurt me was that my best friend, number 2, it was like she didn't care that all of that had happened. It was very, like, I was mad, especially that they were doing it in front of my face, but like nobody cared. At least that was right there with us in the moment. And it was like, it just made me really angry because it seemed like my feelings didn't matter. I don't know. So pretty much they ended up confirming their relationship, whatever. And I remember I was just low-key kind of like angry at my friend. I could care less about the guy, whatever. But you know what? I was like, you know what? I'm happy for you. Like, if this is what you want, cool. Like, what can I do? You know, I'm not gonna tell you not to be with him if this is what you want. And so I remember like they would sneak off. And I think I remember like at times they would literally be like covered in hickeys, both of them and stuff. And I had never seen a hickey before, ever in my life. And honestly, I think part of me was like, okay, like they definitely deserve each other because there was no way that was happening with me. And I think he realized that. And that's why he was like, dump me, you know, because I was never around. And either way, that was never the type of girl I was, especially not at 12 years old. And so they went out for a few months, I think until the end of summer. And then we started school. She was she was a freshman in high school. And he was a 7th grader. But his age was kind of like weird. So I think he might have like repeated a grade or something. He was my age. Well, actually, no, he was a little older than me. But the story keeps going. So I think I'm gonna make this into 2 parts. So this is it for part 1. Hopefully you enjoyed my little story time of my first relationship. It just keeps getting more interesting as the story goes. But I don't want to make this too long, so you're gonna have to stay tuned for part 2. Hopefully you enjoyed my little story, and hopefully I was able to kind of keep it one storyline rather than branching off into different ones, because Lord knows I do that. So anyways, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell if you want to keep seeing more videos from me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!